Welcome back to COCO Gossip, your number one source for the most scandalous and exclusive Sister Wives deep dives. Today, we're unraveling a story so shocking, so diabolical, it threatens to tear the very fabric of the Brown family apart forever. We're talking about the Great Coyote Pass Heist, a tale of corporate betrayal and a land grab of epic proportions. Forget everything you thought you knew about Kody and Robyn's crumbling relationships with the other wives. We have uncovered insider reports and exclusive theories that suggest a premeditated plot to steal the entire multi-million-dollar Coyote Pass property. How did Kody and Robyn allegedly pull off a secret deal to transfer the family's shared dream into their own private LLC for a staggering $2.1 million? Stay tuned as we expose the dark, twisted truth behind the ultimate betrayal and the smoking gun email that could bring it all crashing down. Before we dive into the shocking details, if you love getting the inside scoop on all things Sister Wives and want to support our investigative deep dives, do me a huge favor and hit that like button. And if you haven't already, subscribe to COCO Gossip and ring that notification bell so you never miss an explosive update. Your support allows us to keep digging for the truth. Now let's get into the heart of this twisted saga. The story of Coyote Pass was meant to be the Brown family's magnum opus, the culmination of their journey, a sprawling legacy etched into the Arizona landscape. It was sold to the viewers, and more importantly to the family itself, as a shared dream, a covenant of their plural life together. This wasn't just a piece of land, it was a promise of 4 homes standing together yet apart, a testament to their unique family structure, a place where their children and their children's children could gather and call home. It was the physical manifestation of their all for one and one for all mantra, a mantra that, as we now suspect, was nothing more than a hollow echo in the ears of those who truly believed it. To understand the depth of this betrayal, we must first revisit the initial excitement and the collective financial sacrifice that went into securing this dream. Each of the 4 wives, Meri, Janelle, Christine, and Robyn, along with Kody, were meant to be equal partners in this venture. The property was purchased under an LLC, Brown Family Properties LLC, a legal structure that was supposed to protect their collective investment and ensure that each wife had an equal stake. This was not just Kody's dream, it was their shared ambition, funded by their shared resources. Janelle, in particular, has always been the financial pragmatist of the family, the one who worked tirelessly to ensure their financial stability. She has spoken openly about pouring her life savings into Coyote Pass, a decision she made based on the trust and commitment she believed they all shared. This was her retirement, her nest egg, her legacy for her children. She wasn't just investing money, she was investing her future, her security, and her unwavering faith in the family's collective vision. The very idea that this could be systematically stripped away from her is not just a financial loss, it's a profound and devastating violation of trust. Christine, too, invested heavily, both financially and emotionally. For years, she was the homemaker, the one who raised a baker's dozen children, her contribution to the family's wealth often unseen but undeniably significant. The proceeds from the sale of her Las Vegas home, her share of the family's assets, were funneled into the Coyote Pass stream. She envisioned a home where she could finally have the porch swing she always wanted, a place where her children and grandchildren would always be welcome. It was to be the reward for a lifetime of sacrifice and dedication to a family and a lifestyle that often left her feeling unheard and undervalued. Meri, despite her complicated and often strained relationship with Kody, also had a stake in this shared future. Her financial contributions, her long history with the family, and her emotional investment were all tied up in that piece of land. Coyote Pass represented a chance for a fresh start, a place where she could perhaps redefine her role within the family and find a sense of belonging that had long eluded her. And then there's Robyn, the 4th wife, the one who entered the family dynamic years after its foundation was laid. Her financial contribution at the outset is a matter of much debate among fans, but what is undeniable is her significant influence on Kody and the family's major decisions. From the very beginning, there were whispers, reports from sources close to the family, that Robyn and Kody shared a different vision for the family's future, a vision that was perhaps not as collective as the one being sold to the other wives. The initial plan for Coyote Pass was idyllic, at least on the surface. Kody, with his grand pronouncements and hand-drawn maps, painted a picture of a bustling family compound, each wife in her own home with a central gathering place for family events. He spoke of legacy, of building something that would outlast them all. But even in these early stages, there were red flags, subtle shifts in the narrative that, in hindsight, seemed to foretell the impending disaster. The most significant of these was the constant delay in building on the property. Years passed, and Coyote Pass remained an untouched plot of land, a silent monument to their stalled dreams. The official narrative was a tangled web of excuses: zoning issues, financial constraints, the COVID-19 pandemic. But what if there was another reason? What if the delay was not a bug, but a feature? A calculated move to allow for a different plan to unfold behind the scenes. This is where the insider reports and exclusive theories begin to paint a much darker picture. Sources close to the production have hinted that the disagreements over lot placements and building timelines were not just simple family squabbles. They were, in fact, symptoms of a much deeper, more insidious power struggle. Kody and Robyn, it is alleged, were never truly on board with the four-house plan. Their vision, according to these exclusive theories, was always a singular one: a large home for their own family unit with the other wives relegated to a secondary, almost tenant-like status. The narrative presented to the other wives and to the world was one of unity and shared purpose. But behind closed doors, a different story was being written. The deception, we are now learning, was not a spur-of-the-moment decision, but a carefully orchestrated campaign of misinformation and manipulation. It began, as all the most effective betrayals do, with a kernel of truth. Kody, allegedly at the urging of Robyn, approached Janelle, Meri, and Christine with a proposition that, on the surface, sounded perfectly reasonable. He told them that their lawyer, a trusted advisor who had handled their family's legal affairs for years, had recommended restructuring their assets for tax and liability protection. In a plural family with complex finances and a high public profile, this was a plausible and even prudent suggestion. He presented it as a way to safeguard their collective investment, to protect the very dream they were all working towards. He assured them it was a mere formality, a simple matter of paperwork, to ensure that their legacy was secure. They were presented with a stack of documents, dense with legal jargon, and told that their signatures were needed to proceed with this restructuring. Trusting Kody, trusting the process, and trusting the legal advice they believed was in their best interest, they signed. What they didn't know was that buried within that stack of papers was a ticking time bomb, a document that authorized the dissolution of Brown Family Properties, LLC. This single signature was the key that unlocked the door to the alleged heist. It was the legal loophole that Kody and Robyn needed to execute their audacious plan. The other wives, busy with their own lives, their own children, and the day-to-day challenges of their unique family structure, had no reason to suspect that they had just signed away their future. They believed they were protecting their dream, when in reality they were paving the way for it to be stolen right out from under them. The timeline of what happened next is both chilling and infuriating. Just days after obtaining the signatures to dissolve the original LLC, Kody and Robyn filed articles of incorporation for a new entity, K&R Legacy Holdings LLC. The name itself is a cruel irony, a blatant declaration of their true intentions. This was not about the Brown family's legacy. It was about their own. And in the fine print of this new LLC's founding documents, a stark and brutal reality was laid bare. The only managing members listed were Kody Brown and Robyn Brown. With the original LLC dissolved and the new one established, the final piece of the puzzle fell into place. The $2.1 million Coyote Pass property, the jewel in the Brown family's crown, was transferred in its entirety to K&R Legacy Holdings, LLC. The shared dream, the collective investment, the future that Janelle, Meri, and Christine had poured their hearts, souls, and finances into, was now legally and exclusively owned by Kody and Robyn. The heist was complete, executed with a level of cunning and ruthlessness that is truly breathtaking. For a time, the other wives remained blissfully unaware of the corporate coup that had taken place. They continued to believe they were co-owners of Coyote Pass, their dreams of building their forever homes still alive. The deception was so complete, so seamless, that there were no outward signs that anything had changed. Life went on, The family dynamics continued their familiar, often tumultuous dance. But beneath the surface, a time bomb was ticking, waiting for the one thing that would inevitably bring this dark secret to light. Tax time. The discovery, when it finally came, was not the result of a dramatic confrontation or a tearful confession. It was a mundane, almost accidental encounter at the county assessor's office that unraveled the entire conspiracy. Janelle, ever the responsible one, went to the office to inquire about paying her portion of the property taxes directly. She wanted to ensure that her financial obligations were being met, that her investment was secure. The clerk, a faceless bureaucrat with no knowledge of the family drama that was about to unfold, pulled up the property records. After a few moments of typing, she looked up at Janelle with a quizzical expression. "Ma'am," she said, "according to our records, you have no tax liability for this property." Janelle was confused. "There must be a mistake, Miss Ain," she explained. "I'm one of the owners. It's under Brown Family Properties, LLC. The clerk shook her head. "The property is no longer owned by that LLC, she stated matter-of-factly. "The current owner is a company called K&R Legacy Holdings, LLC. The name was unfamiliar, a meaningless jumble of letters. Janelle's confusion turned to a cold, creeping dread. She asked the clerk to pull the most recent deed, her heart pounding in her chest. And there it was, in black and white, a legal document that felt like a death certificate for her dreams. The owner of Coyote Pass was an LLC she had never heard of, a company that had no connection to her or to Meri or to Christine. The initial shock quickly gave way to a sickening wave of realization. This wasn't a clerical error. This was something far more sinister. Janelle, a woman known for her level-headedness and pragmatism, found herself in a situation that felt like a surreal nightmare. She had just discovered, in the most impersonal and bureaucratic way possible, that her life's biggest investment had vanished into thin air. But Janelle is not a woman to be trifled with. Her grief and shock soon hardened into a steely resolve. She knew she needed help, that she couldn't untangle this web of deceit on her own. She hired a lawyer, a sharp, no-nonsense professional who specialized in corporate and real estate law. And what that lawyer uncovered was a paper trail of deception so blatant, so audacious, that it left no doubt as to the premeditated nature of the betrayal. The lawyer quickly found the dissolution papers, the very documents that Janelle, Meri, and Christine had unknowingly signed. Their signatures, once symbols of trust and unity, were now evidence of their own unwitting participation in their financial ruin. And just 48 hours after the dissolution was filed, the incorporation documents for K&R Legacy Holdings were submitted, with Kody and Robyn as the sole members. The timeline was damning, a clear indication that this was not a gradual shift in ownership, but a swift and decisive takeover. The pieces were all there, a damning mosaic of corporate malfeasance. But the final irrefutable proof, the smoking gun that would blow this case wide open, was yet to be discovered. It came in the form of an email, a digital breadcrumb left behind by a man who had grown so arrogant in his deception that he believed he was untouchable. The lawyer, through legal channels, was able to subpoena Kody's email records related to the property transfer, and there, buried in a sea of mundane correspondence, was an email from Kody to Robyn, a message that was as chilling as it was incriminating. The email, forwarded by the lawyer to Janelle, read simply, "The transfer is complete. The asset is finally secure with us. They won't figure it out until tax time." This was it, the irrefutable proof of their intent, the cold, hard evidence of their premeditated plan. The phrase, "finally secure with us," was a dagger to the heart, a confirmation that they saw the other wives not as partners, but as obstacles to be overcome. And the casual, almost gleeful prediction that they won't figure it out until tax time was a testament to their chilling lack of remorse, their utter disregard for the lives and futures they were systematically destroying. The discovery of this email was a turning point. It transformed this from a case of a soured business deal into a clear-cut case of fraud. The emotional devastation for Janelle was immense. The man she had spent decades of her life with, the father of her children, had not only betrayed her trust, but had actively and methodically stolen from her. The sense of violation, of being played for a fool, was almost too much to bear. But alongside the pain, there was a surge of righteous anger. This was not just about the money, though the financial implications were catastrophic. This was about justice. It was about holding Kody and Robyn accountable for their actions, for their calculated and cruel deception. The news of this discovery had to be shared with Christine. Janelle, her heart heavy with the burden of what she was about to reveal, met with her former sister's wife. Christine, who had already made the courageous decision to leave Kody and start a new life, was no stranger to his manipulations. But even she was not prepared for the sheer scale of this betrayal. As Janelle laid out the evidence, the dissolution papers, the new LLC, the deed transfer, and finally, the smoking gun email, Christine's initial disbelief morphed into a quiet, simmering rage. The porch swing, the family gatherings, the future she had once envisioned on that plot of land, it had all been a lie. She, too, had been a pawn in Kody and Robyn's twisted game. For both Janelle and Christine, this was the ultimate reckoning. It was the final brutal confirmation of what they had long suspected, that in Kody and Robyn's world, there was no we, only us. The family, the one they had dedicated their lives to, was nothing more than a convenient fiction, a means to an end. The revelation of this grand larceny of their financial future has set the stage for a legal battle of epic proportions. This is no longer just a family drama to be played out on a reality television show. This has crossed the line into the realm of criminal and civil liability. The evidence of fraud, of deliberate and malicious deception, is so clear, so compelling, that Janelle and Christine now hold a powerful weapon. Their lawsuit, when it is inevitably filed, will not just be about reclaiming their share of a multi-million-dollar property. It will be about reclaiming their power, their dignity, and their right to a future that was so nearly stolen from them. It will be a testament to their resilience, their courage, and their refusal to be silenced victims. And for Kody and Robyn, the asset that they thought was finally secure may very well be the very thing that brings their carefully constructed world crashing down around them. The tax time they so casually dismissed is fast approaching, and with it, a legal and financial firestorm that they may not be able to escape. The great Coyote Pass heist, the ultimate act of corporate betrayal, is about to become a very public and very costly affair. And we at COCO Gossip will be here to document every shocking twist and turn. The story is far from over. In fact, it's just beginning. The insider reports and exclusive theories we have shared today are just the tip of the iceberg. The fallout from this scandal will undoubtedly reshape the lives of everyone involved and will surely be a central theme in the upcoming seasons of Sister Wives, assuming the cameras are even allowed to capture the raw, unfiltered reality of what is to come. The stage is set for a legal drama that could rival any scripted television show, with real lives and real futures hanging in the balance. We laid bare the chilling paper trail of the great Coyote Pass heist. We revealed how Janelle and Christine, through insider reports, discovered that their life's biggest investment, their share of the multi-million-dollar property, was allegedly stolen out from under them. They were duped into signing dissolution papers for the family's shared LLC, only for Kody and Robyn to secretly transfer the entire property deed to a new LLC owned solely by them, K&R Legacy Holdings. The discovery was a brutal awakening, but the true bombshell was the smoking gun email from Kody to Robyn, a cold-hearted confession of their premeditated plan. The transfer is complete. The asset is finally secure with us. They won't figure it out until tax time. This wasn't just a betrayal, it was grand larceny disguised as a legal maneuver. Now, armed with irrefutable proof of fraud, Janelle and Christine are faced with the biggest fight of their lives. The reckoning has begun, and we are here to unpack the devastating aftermath and the legal firestorm that is about to engulf the Brown family. The emotional fallout from a betrayal of this magnitude is difficult to comprehend. For Janelle and Christine, this was more than just a financial swindle. It was the ultimate act of psychological warfare. It was the final, undeniable confirmation that the man they had dedicated their lives to, the family they had built and sacrificed for, was a carefully constructed illusion. Imagine the conversations that took place in the days and weeks following the discovery. The quiet, tearful phone calls between Janelle and Christine as they pieced together the timeline of deception. Every memory, every promise Kody ever made about their future on Coyote Pass was now tainted, recontextualized as a lie. The gaslighting they had endured for years, the subtle manipulations that made them question their own perceptions and feelings, had now been laid bare in its most grotesque form. This wasn't just Kody being selfish or neglectful. This was a calculated long-term strategy to dispossess them, to erase them not just from his present, but from the future legacy of the family. The name K&R Legacy Holdings was a particularly cruel twist of the knife. It was a declaration that the only legacy Kody was interested in building was the one with Robyn and their children. Janelle's practicality and Christine's emotional resilience were put to the ultimate test. They had to process the grief of losing not just a property, but the entire foundation of their belief system. The family they thought they were a part of had, in a legal and deeply personal sense, ceased to exist long before they even knew it. They were no longer partners. They were obstacles that had been removed. This realization is a profound trauma, one that will undoubtedly shape the rest of their lives, but out of this devastation, a new alliance was forged. The bond between Janelle and Christine, already strengthened by their shared experiences of leaving Kody, now solidified into an unbreakable pact. They were no longer sister wives in a dysfunctional patriarchy. They were warriors united against a common enemy, determined to reclaim what was rightfully theirs. But this raises a critical and haunting question. Where does Meri Brown fit into this picture? The first wife, the one who was there from the very beginning, was she also a victim just as blindsided as Janelle and Christine? Or is the truth something far more complicated, far more troubling? This is where the exclusive theories from our insider sources diverge, painting three potential and equally tragic scenarios. The first theory, and the one that many fans would perhaps prefer to believe, is that Meri was indeed an unknowing victim. Her relationship with Kody had been on life support for years, a hollow shell of a marriage maintained for the sake of appearances in the television show. It's entirely plausible that Kody and Robyn saw her as an easy target for their deception. They could have isolated her, fed her the same lines about tax and liability protection, and secured her signature without arousing any suspicion. Her emotional distance from the rest of the family would have made it easy to keep her in the dark. In this scenario, Meri's discovery of the heist would be a lonely and heartbreaking affair, another brutal reminder of her complete and utter irrelevance in Kody's life. The second theory, however, is far more sinister. Some sources have suggested the possibility that Meri was a silent partner, or at the very least, a complicit bystander. What if, in a desperate attempt to regain some semblance of favor with Kody, she agreed to the plan? Perhaps she was offered a deal, a small off-the-books payout, or the empty promise of a future role in their legacy. It's a dark thought, but given the complexities and desperation that have defined her storyline for years, it's a possibility that cannot be entirely dismissed. Was her loyalty to Kody so deeply ingrained that she would be willing to betray the other women who had been her family for decades? If this theory holds any water, it would recast Meri not as a tragic figure, but as a willing participant in the destruction of her own family. The third, and perhaps most psychologically complex theory, is that of willful ignorance. It's possible that Meri saw the red flags. She may have had her suspicions, felt the shifts in power, and understood on some level that Kody and Robyn were consolidating their assets and their future. But confronting that reality would have meant confronting the complete and total failure of her life's purpose. It would have meant accepting that she had given everything to a man and a family who saw her as disposable. And so she chose not to see. She signed the papers, asked no questions, and retreated into the fragile bubble of denial she had so carefully constructed around herself. In this version of events, Meri is a deeply tragic figure, a woman so broken by years of emotional neglect that she became a passive participant in her own erasure. Regardless of which theory is true, Meri's position is undeniably precarious. If she was a victim, she now faces the choice of joining Janelle and Christine in their legal battle or suffering her losses in silence. If she was complicit, she now lives with the knowledge of her betrayal, forever tied to the very people who have systematically dismantled her family. The legal battle that is brewing is set to be a landmark case in the world of reality television. Janelle and Christine's lawyer, armed with the smoking gun email and the damning paper trail, has a clear path forward. The lawsuit will undoubtedly allege multiple counts of fraud, breach of fiduciary duty, and unjust enrichment. Kody, as the managing member of the original Brown Family Properties LLC, had a legal and ethical obligation to act in the best interests of all its members. The secret dissolution of the LLC and the subsequent transfer of its sole asset to his and Robyn's private company is a textbook example of a breach of that duty. The legal team will likely move to pierce the corporate veil, a legal doctrine used when a company's structure is used to perpetrate a fraud. They will argue that K&R Legacy Holdings LLC is not a legitimate business entity, but merely a shell company, an alter ego for Kody and Robyn, created for the sole purpose of shielding a stolen asset. If they are successful, the court can disregard the LLC structure and hold Kody and Robyn personally liable for the full value of the property. The discovery process will be a spectacle in itself. Imagine the depositions, Kody and Robyn forced to answer questions under oath about their intentions, their conversations, and their finances. Subpoenas will fly demanding access to every bank statement, every email, every text message related to the transaction. They will be asked to explain the timing of the LLC dissolution and the creation of their new company. They will be confronted with the email, that single damning piece of evidence, and asked to explain what they meant by "the asset is finally secure with us." There will be no room for their usual tactics of deflection, spiritual justifications, or emotional manipulation. They will be facing a system that deals in facts, in evidence, and in the cold, hard letter of the law. Of course, Kody and Robyn will not take this lying down. They will launch a public relations offensive, a desperate attempt to spin the narrative in their favor. We can already predict their talking points, the carefully crafted story they will tell their remaining followers and the media. They will claim that this was not a theft, but a necessary business decision to protect the family's main asset. They will argue that with Christine leaving and Janelle becoming increasingly independent, the original LLC was no longer viable. They will paint themselves as the responsible ones, the saviors of the property, who had to make a tough choice to prevent the other wives from liquidating the family's future for their own selfish needs. They will frame Janelle and Christine as bitter, vindictive exes, motivated by jealousy and greed, who are now trying to extort money from the real family. Kody will likely lean heavily on his patriarchal rhetoric, claiming that, as the head of the family, he had the right and the responsibility to manage their assets as he saw fit. Robyn will play the victim, shedding tears for the cameras, as she talks about how she never wanted this, how she has been unfairly targeted, and how all she ever wanted was a united family. They will use their children as props, talking about securing their future while conveniently ignoring the futures of the 13 other children in the family whose inheritance they have allegedly stolen. They will try to muddy the waters with spiritual jargon, talking about prayer and divine guidance, suggesting that this decision was somehow sanctioned by a higher power. But this time their spin will not work. The evidence is too clear, the betrayal too blatant. The court of public opinion, which has already been turning against them for years, will likely deliver a swift and brutal verdict. Their attempts to portray themselves as victims will be seen for what they are, the desperate machinations of two people caught in a web of their own making. The financial implications of this lawsuit are staggering, and a deep dive into the family's financial history will reveal the true extent of Janelle and Christine's contributions. The down payment for Coyote Pass was not Kody's money, it was family money, cobbled together from the sale of their 4 homes in Las Vegas. Janelle, with her steady income and frugal habits, and Christine, with the equity from the home she had maintained for years, contributed a significant portion of that capital. A forensic accounting of the family's finances will likely show a clear and traceable path from their individual assets into the collective pot that was Brown Family Properties LLC. Furthermore, exclusive theories from our sources suggest an even more shocking financial entanglement. There have been persistent rumors for years that Robyn entered the family with a significant amount of debt that was subsequently absorbed and paid off by the family as a whole. If Janelle and Christine's lawyers can prove this, it will add another layer of outrage to the story. Not only did they contribute the lion's share of the investment for Coyote Pass, but they also unknowingly financed the lifestyle and paid off the debts of the very woman who would allegedly orchestrate the theft of their future. And the financial chicanery may not have stopped with the transfer of the deed. What if Kody and Robyn, now the sole owners of a multi-million-dollar asset, decided to leverage it for their own personal gain? It is entirely possible that they took out a mortgage or a line of credit against the property, pulling out the equity that Janelle, Christine, and Meri had invested and using it to fund their own lavish lifestyle. This would be the final devastating insult, forcing the other wives to unwittingly finance their own dispossession. The impact of this betrayal will ripple far beyond the 4 original wives. It will create an irreparable schism among the 18 Brown children, the adult children of Janelle and Christine, who have already been vocal in their criticism of Kody and Robyn, will undoubtedly rally to their mother's sides. They will see this not as a dispute between their parents, but as a direct theft of their own inheritance, their own legacy. The bonds between the siblings, once a source of strength and pride for the family, will be shattered. Family gatherings will become a thing of the past, replaced by tense legal meetings and public accusations. The younger children, still caught in the middle, will be forced to navigate a minefield of conflicting loyalties, their family torn apart by greed and deception. This is the true tragedy of the Coyote Pass heist. It is the destruction of a family not by the external pressures of a plural lifestyle, but by the internal rot of greed and betrayal. Kody's lifelong dream of a united family dynasty, of a legacy that would endure for generations, will be a casualty of his own making, a dream sacrificed at the altar of his and Robyn's selfish desires. The climax of this saga will not be a tearful confrontation on a couch in front of a camera crew. It will be a cold, hard legal judgment delivered in a court of law. We can envision the scene, Janelle and Christine, poised and dignified, presenting their case with clarity and conviction, and across from them, Kody and Robyn, their carefully constructed narrative crumbling under the weight of cross-examination. The smoking gun email is presented as evidence, its damning words echoing in the silent courtroom. The financial records are laid bare, a stark accounting of who paid for what. And in the end, the judge's ruling is swift and decisive. The court finds in favor of Janelle and Christine, ruling that the transfer of the property was fraudulent. The judge orders the immediate dissolution of K&R Legacy Holdings, LLC, and forces a sale of the Coyote Pass property. The proceeds are to be divided not equally, but equitably, based on the documented financial contributions of each of the original partners. Janelle and Christine will not only reclaim their initial investment, but will likely be awarded punitive damages for the deliberate and malicious nature of the fraud. This will be their ultimate vindication. Their win will not just be about the money, it will be the public and legal validation of their truth. It will be the moment they reclaim their power, their agency, and their future. They will walk away from the ashes of their plural marriage not as broken victims, but as triumphant survivors who stared down the ultimate betrayal and won. They will have their financial freedom, their dignity intact, and the unwavering support of their children. And as for Kody and Robyn, they will be left with the ruins of their legacy, their reputations in tatters, and the bitter knowledge that the asset they thought they had so cleverly secured was the very thing that led to their downfall. The Great Coyote Pass Heist will go down in reality TV history as a cautionary tale of greed, deception, and the incredible resilience of 2 women who refused to be erased. What do you think of this explosive theory? Do you believe Kody and Robyn were capable of such a calculated betrayal? Where do you think Meri really stands in all of this? Let me know all of your theories and your unfiltered thoughts in the comments below. This story is far from over, and you know COCO Gossip will be here to track every single development. If you were as captivated by this deep dive as I was, please show your support by hitting that like button, and make sure you are subscribed with notifications turned on so you don't miss our next shocking expose. Thank you for joining me, and until next time, stay gossiping.